Imagine this for a second. You're sitting at your kitchen table on a random Tuesday evening. Maybe there's a half-finished cup of coffee next to you. Maybe your phone is open to your banking app. Maybe there's a spreadsheet you promised yourself you'd look at weeks ago. And you're doing that quiet little calculation people do in their head when no one's around. You know the one. You look at your savings, maybe your retirement account, maybe that investment app you downloaded after watching a motivational finance video at 1:30 in the morning. And somewhere in the back of your mind, there's this number, $1 million. Because that's the number everyone talks about. Just save $1 million and you'll be fine. You hear it from financial blogs, from YouTube videos, from retirement calculators, sometimes from coworkers who sound way more confident than they probably should. $1 million. It sounds clean, comforting, almost magical. Like once you cross that line, everything just sorts itself out. But then another thought creeps in. Wait, is that actually enough? And suddenly the math gets a little fuzzy. Housing prices keep climbing, healthcare costs feel like a mystery box, groceries somehow cost double what they used to, and the idea of living 25 or 30 years after retirement suddenly makes that $1 million finish line feel a little smaller. Honestly, this question pops into my head all the time. My name is Tim, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. Not just the numbers, but the psychology around it. Why certain financial ideas spread like wildfire. Why some numbers become almost mythical. And why millions of normal people quietly build their entire life plan around assumptions that nobody really stops to question. And the $1 million retirement goal might be the biggest myth of them all. Not because saving $1 million is bad. It's actually incredible. But because the way people think about that number, the way it gets repeated over and over like some universal rule, hides a much more important conversation about what retirement actually looks like in the real world. And once you start pulling on that thread, things get interesting. Because retirement isn't really about hitting a number. It's about understanding a few uncomfortable truths that most financial advice conveniently skips over. So today, I want to talk about the $1 million retirement myth, where it came from, why it's stuck around for so long, and why chasing that one specific number might actually distract people from building the kind of financial life they really want. And honestly, once you see this clearly, it can completely change how you think about money.
So first, we need to talk about where this number even came from. Because if you stop and think about it for a second, the idea that everyone needs exactly $1 million is kind of strange, right? People live in completely different cities, have different lifestyles, different families, different health situations, and yet, somehow, the internet collectively agreed on the same round number, 1 million. It didn't happen randomly. The idea mostly traces back to something called the 4% rule, a retirement guideline that became popular in the 1990s. Here's the simplified version. Financial researchers looked at decades of stock market history and asked a pretty practical question. If someone retires and withdraws a small percentage of their portfolio each year, how much can they safely take out without running out of money? After studying historical market returns, they found something interesting. If you withdraw about 4% of your portfolio per year, adjusted for inflation, there's a very high probability that your money lasts about 30 years. So if you had $1,000 invested, 4% of that is $40,000 per year. And suddenly the idea caught on. A $1 million portfolio equals roughly $40K of annual retirement income. Clean, simple, easy headline. But here's the thing people forget. That study was based on very specific assumptions: historical U.S. market performance, a 30-year retirement window, certain inflation levels, and a specific mix of stocks and bonds. And real life, well, real life doesn't always follow neat academic models. Markets change, lifespans change, healthcare costs explode, and lifestyles vary wildly. So the $1 million number stuck around, but the context slowly faded away. Kind of like a recipe where everyone remembers the final dish but forgets half the ingredients. And that's where the myth begins. Let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine two retirees. Person A lives in a small town, their house is fully paid off, they enjoy gardening, walking their dog, and occasionally visiting their grandkids. Their monthly expenses might look like this: property taxes, groceries, utilities, healthcare, a few hobbies. Total? Maybe $2,500 to $3,000 per month. Now imagine person B. They live in a high-cost city. They still have some housing expenses, they travel frequently, and they enjoy restaurants, concerts, and visiting different countries every year. Their monthly spending might be closer to $6,000 or $7,000. Both people could have $1 million saved up, but their retirement experiences would look completely different. One might feel relaxed and financially secure, the other might feel constantly stressed about running out of money. Same portfolio, different reality. This is the part of retirement planning that almost nobody talks about. Your lifestyle matters far more than the headline number. $1 million isn't a finish line, it's just fuel, and how long that fuel lasts depends entirely on how fast you're driving the car.
Now let's talk about something that makes financial planners quietly nervous: inflation. Because when people hear $1 million, they tend to imagine today's purchasing power. But retirement might be 20, 30, or even 40 years away. And inflation slowly erodes money in ways that are almost invisible. Let's say inflation averages 3% per year. That might not sound like much, but over time, it compounds. Something that costs $40,000 per year today might cost $72,000 in 20 years. Same lifestyle, same groceries, same electricity bill, but almost double the price. And suddenly, that $1 million nest egg that seemed huge starts looking smaller. This is one of those quiet financial realities people don't think about until they're much closer to retirement. Money has a half-life. Not literally, but functionally. The longer your timeline, the more inflation eats away at purchasing power. Which means retirement planning isn't just about hitting a number. It's about hitting a number in future dollars, not today's dollars. And that difference is massive. Here's another strange little twist in the retirement equation. People are living longer, a lot longer. In the early 1900s, average life expectancy in many countries was around 50 years. Today, it's closer to 80. And if someone reaches retirement age in decent health, it's very common to live into their late 80s or 90s. That means retirement could last 30 years, sometimes 35 or 40. Think about that for a moment. You might spend almost as much time in retirement as you did working. And that creates a fascinating financial challenge, because most retirement models assume about 30 years of withdrawals. But what if someone retires at 60 and lives to 95? That's 35 years. 5 extra years might not sound like a lot, but financially, it's enormous. It means your portfolio has to stretch further than most calculators assume. And this is one of the reasons many financial planners now suggest withdrawal rates closer to 3 to 3.5% instead of 4%, which means a $1 million portfolio might provide $30K to $35K per year, not $40K. Again, the math quietly shifts. There's also something deeply psychological happening with the $1 million goal. Humans love round numbers. $100, $1,000, $1 million. They feel satisfying, like checkpoints in a video game. But financial life doesn't really work that way. Imagine someone who saves $950,000. Did they fail retirement? Of course not. But mentally, it can feel like they missed the milestone. Meanwhile, someone with $1.05 million might feel like they've made it, even though the difference between those two portfolios is tiny relative to a 30-year retirement. Round numbers create emotional finish lines that don't always match reality. They simplify complex planning into a single scoreboard. And while that can motivate people, it can also mislead them. Because the real question isn't, did you reach 1 million? The real question is, does your money support the life you want? Two very different questions.
Another thing people mix up constantly is the difference between wealth and income. $1 million sounds enormous as a lump sum, but retirement doesn't work in lump sums. It works in monthly income. Mortgage payments, food, insurance, travel, utilities. When you break the numbers down like that, the focus shifts. Instead of asking, how big is my retirement account, you start asking, how much income can my assets generate every month? This is why some retirees with smaller portfolios feel perfectly comfortable, because they also have pensions, rental income, or Social Security, and those steady income streams reduce the pressure on savings. Meanwhile, someone with a larger portfolio but no additional income sources might feel more financially fragile. Retirement isn't just about asset size, it's about income stability. So if the $1 million target is somewhat misleading, what actually matters? A few things matter far more. First, your spending habits. The less you need to spend, the less pressure your portfolio carries. Second, your flexibility. People who can adjust spending during market downturns often make their savings last dramatically longer. Third, your health and housing situation. Paid-off housing is one of the biggest retirement advantages a person can have. And fourth, time. Not just saving time, but retirement timing. Someone who works even 2 or 3 extra years can dramatically increase retirement security. Why? Because those years add savings and reduce the number of years withdrawals are needed. It's like strengthening both sides of the bridge at the same time. The quiet alternative strategy. Now, here's something interesting. Many financially secure retirees didn't obsess over hitting exactly $1 million. Instead, they focused on a much simpler system. Save consistently, increase savings when income rises, avoid major lifestyle inflation, invest steadily over decades. That's it. Not flashy, not viral, but incredibly effective. The people who quietly follow this system often end up with more wealth than those chasing perfect financial milestones, because consistency beats perfection. Every time. So let's come back to the original question. Is $1 million enough to retire? The honest answer is sometimes. For some people, it's more than enough. For others, it's not even close. And that's why the $1 million retirement goal can be a little misleading. It gives people a single number when what they really need is a deeper understanding of their lifestyle, timeline, and financial flexibility. Retirement isn't a finish line. It's a long stretch of life where your money slowly converts into time. Time with family, time for hobbies, time for quiet mornings where you're not rushing out the door to a job. And when you look at it that way, the real goal isn't hitting an impressive number on a spreadsheet. The real goal is building a financial system that quietly supports the life you want to live. For some people, that might be $700,000. For others, it might be $2 million. The exact number matters less than the clarity behind it. So instead of asking, do I have $1 million yet? Maybe the better question is, what kind of life am I actually saving for? Because once that becomes clear, the math starts making a lot more sense. And honestly, that's where retirement planning stops feeling like a distant, intimidating puzzle and starts feeling like something you're steadily, quietly building, one decision at a time.